Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Unpacking with Sarah. I am your host, Sarah Westbrook. I have a quick announcement before we jump into our information today. We are going to be, if you're listening to this via podcast, we are changing the name of our channel to Daisy Girl Communications. That way, we have just the umbrella company covering the three podcasts that we are doing on a regular basis, which is Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma, Unpacking with Sarah, and our Raising Crazy Growing Up to Show Up episodes. We are really excited about the change as we continue to grow. We just want to make sure our listeners are able to continue to easily find us. Alrighty, so when you are in counseling or you're doing a lot of self-help work, you're gonna hear a lot of talk about feelings. And really, I remember thinking, what are our feelings? And we come up with, oh, well, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm those are words that label physiological sensations experience. And so I've come up with this worksheet. Alex, if you can go ahead and pull that up, that we will make available on our website as soon as I've got the copyright information the rest of the way filled in. So you will be able to find and download this worksheet on our website at daisygirlcommunications.com here probably in the next week or so. We're still working on getting all of that updated. So anyway, if you want to find this, I think you can buy it for 99 cents and then you can print it and utilize it on your own. But really, what I want you to do is become more aware of what those physiological sensations are for you specifically when you are experiencing a specific emotion. Like I said, our emotions are nothing more, or our feelings are nothing more than a label or a vocabulary word that describes physiological sensations inside our body. So, for example, I filled this out for Sarah. If Sarah is feeling rage or anger, what that normally looks like for me is that in my forehead, I get really tight, or my face will get really hot. My jaw gets clenched. I tend to like grind my teeth when I'm angry or frustrated, or definitely when I'm raging. I don't feel like I can swallow as much, so my mouth will fill up with a lot of spit. My chest will be pounding, like I can hear and feel my heart. My biceps, my arms, my hands, they all start to shake. I tend to or want to hit, punch, throw things when I'm in a rage. My stomach gets really hot and tight, like I can feel automatic indigestion. It's like my body becomes hyper aware of that. My knees and legs actually feel kind of weak, which might seem off. A lot of people are like, oh, I get a surge of energy all through my body so that I can run and whatnot. I don't get that. In my legs, I tend to get really weak. And in my upper body, I get that surge of energy, which is probably feel like throwing, hitting, punching. I am a fighter when I get angry. So I utilize my words the most. I notice that my back will get stiff and sore, but my bum, so here we've got our bum and our groin. We do have a lot of nerve endings there. So you're going to feel some physiological sensations in that area of your body. And so anyway, I'm going to feel a lot of, for me, shuddering and weakness in my bum, but in my groin area, like my hoo-ha gets hot and angry and very protective. Like I feel to protect that spot, and it's hot and angry for whatever reason. My neck gets really stiff, my shoulders get really tight or tense. And so this is how this worksheet is used. So let's talk about another emotion, because I think that anger or rage is really easy for most of us to go, okay, in my body, I am experiencing these sensations, or I am feeling these sensations. So when Sarah is depressed, what I am going to be feeling in my forehead. So here again, you've got this example of how you're to utilize this worksheet. When I'm feeling depressed, my forehead and head feel very heavy and tired. My face feels very empty. I don't really have, like, I don't find myself scowling or anything when I'm depressed. I just feel a lack of sensation, but a huge amount of heaviness, like everything feels heavy, like it's hard for me to move through things. I fall asleep a lot more often. I sleep way too much. My jaw, again, though, is still clenched. So, one of the things Sarah knows about herself, one of the things I know about myself is that if I'm experiencing an uncomfortable emotion, what that means is that my body is uncomfortable because of physiological sensations, and uncomfortable emotions or uncomfortable feelings for Sarah almost always leave me with jaw clenching. That is one of my signs that, hey, I'm not liking what's going on, is my jaw will get clenched. When I'm feeling depressed, I feel very cold and empty. My stomach tends to hurt, feel a lot of indigestion. I feel a lot of movement. I'm more aware of my bowel movement, and I struggle with constipation. So all of a sudden, I end up with abdominal pain, which in the past has led me to the emergency room because of the severity of abdominal pain I have felt when I have been depressed. Groin becomes very cold. My legs again feel very shaky. My knees will click, like I think the muscles kind of loosen up in my legs. And so my knees will actually pop. My feet will tremble. Is you look at this on the back side of me, heavy, droopy, sore, heavy, cold, weak, heavy, and trembling. When I am depressed, all I want to do is lay down because my entire body feels really hard to hold up. So I know that I'm struggling with chronic depression when it's very difficult for me to get out of bed. And that's a really common sensation for us. It's pretty common when you're doing depression inventories. It will ask you, are you staying in bed a lot? Well, my question for you is become more aware, what physiological sensation that makes you want to stay in bed. For me, my body feels heavy, like I'm moving through mud. I'm really cold, so I tend to want to curl up under my blankets or curl up into the fetal position. Those types of things. And so that's why I want to go to bed. That's why it's hard for me to get up and get moving, because I'm fighting my own body's signals of what I'm experiencing. And I want you to keep in mind that your feelings or your emotions are an experience. They're not an event, they're an experience. Now, my behaviors, how I respond in my rage, that is an event. So if I start throwing or kicking or cussing, screaming, that is an event. But what I'm feeling internally is an experience. And I want you to kind of be able to start to separate these things, because in mental health and my clinic, when I help my clients slow these processes down so that they can be very aware of each stage of what's going on for them, then they are better able to manage it. They're better able to respond to it because your brain begins to connect with your body. So we call that the mind body connection. And the mind body connection, the more we are aware of these individual sensations in our body, the better we are at controlling the resulting behavior that comes from this, or the resulting thoughts that come from these sensations. Because for most of us, the sensations come before the thoughts do. Now, we can think ourselves into having some of these physiological sensations, which we're going to talk about next week. But for the most part, we are going to have something triggers us, we have a feeling, then we have a behavior. And then we have yeah, behavior, I was going to say, and then an action. That's the same damn thing. I apologize about that. Old thought used to be there was a triggering event. I had a thought and then a reaction. And that's just not the case. Our body, our amygdala works faster than our frontal cortex. Our thoughts are coming from our frontal cortex. Our emotional brain also responds faster than our frontal cortex. So the order is, there's something, sometimes we can identify that trigger, sometimes we can't. And then we get sensational changes in our body, which then causes a thought or behavior. And sometimes the behavior comes first. If you're in your amygdala, your behavior will often come before your thought. And if you're in your frontal cortex, which we're going to talk about right now, when I feel joyful, I'm usually in my frontal cortex rather than my amygdala. I might still be in my emotional brain, but when I'm in my frontal cortex, I usually will have a thought before an action, but it's important for us to recognize that oftentimes those actions can come before thought. Thinking that thought always precedes the action is kind of an old way of thinking. We have since then removed that. Also, please note if you're watching this, cell phone picture shadow in there. I filled these out this morning. So when Sarah feels joyful, I'm going to name the emotion, then I'm going to identify the physiological sensations. And then, of course, on this, it says move or rest, identified discomfort. And we're going to talk about more about that here in session 3, A, B, and C. We're going to kind of break this worksheet down a little bit more. So when Sarah feels joyful, so now I'm in a comfortable emotion, my head and my forehead feels lighter, like I feel like the sunshine is like either coming out of me or I'm absorbing better. I feel a little taller, which is always nice because I'm such a shorty. My neck is more relaxed. I brightness. I feel alive, like really happy. See, there's another title. There's another label for the emotion rather than the sensation, but I feel brightness coming out of my face. I feel warmth in there. My chest feels very open. I have this sensation like I get these fun, comfortable tingles in my biceps, like a hug everything. Like when Sarah is joyful, I'm a toucher, I'm a feeler, I'm very a tactile person. So I want to hug you, I want to ruffle your hair, I want high five, I want to fist bump, elbow bumps, whatever. So I'm very relaxed in my biceps, but I also get those little tingles of like, woo, we got to do this. In my groin, I become aroused, and this is normal, and that does feel sexual, but it also sometimes doesn't feel sexual. But it's like this, hey, I gotta move. Keep in mind, sensations in your groin area does not always mean sexual sensations. We have a ton of nerve endings down there. And so we feel things down there, and we're really good at ignoring them because we kind of like to attach our groin and our buttocks with sexual things. And it isn't always. So keep that in mind. Pay attention to those. We've shut them down because we've been taught from the time we were little, hey, we don't want to talk about this or we don't want to think about that, and ignore those sensations until you're married or until you're with a partner and whatnot. It is normal for you to have arousal or tingles or heat or clenching or tension in the area when you are not in a sexual brain space, and that's okay. That's normal. My bum gets really warm. My thigh and lower body really energized. So one of the things that's interesting for me is that when I'm having uncomfortable emotions, my belly button down tends to want to shut down, and I get tingly and weak and shaky, and I get like these pins and needles that'll go on. But when I'm in a comfortable brain space, things from my belly button down wake up, and I've got all kinds of energy, and I want to skip and I want to ride horses. So I put down here, I feel skippy. I don't really know how else to do it other than there's like a buzz of energy going on in my lower body when I feel joyful. It's one of the reasons why when I'm struggling with uncomfortable emotions, I will ride horses, because when I ride horses, I have to use my thighs and my calves and my feet and my waist and my core muscles in order to steer or communicate with the horse. It's how you communicate with the horse. A lot of people think you do it by yanking on their face, and a lot of people yank on a horse's face. That's not the appropriate way to ride. You communicate with a horse with your lower body. So when I'm in an uncomfortable brain space and I go to ride a horse, my body goes from feeling weak or tired and I just want to lay down to utilizing the muscles that are feeling really weak or tired, and that lifts my mood. Again, today's episode is about getting your brain, your conscious awareness, more in connection with what's going on physiologically inside your body so that you can learn to respond differently. Now, the last thing that I'm going to say about all of this, that oftentimes we think the way we start to respond differently is by working on the behavior and the feelings we follow. And what I have found in my clinic is that as we raise awareness about the sensations as they come, the behaviors begin to change naturally on their own. We don't have to go out and force ourselves to do something different. Now, there is something called exposure therapy, which we'll get to in the future. You're not ready for that, But as we begin to focus on the sensations in our body, our cognitive brain begins to recognize, oh, this is depression. Oh, this is rage. Oh, this is happy. Ooh, this is bitter. And what happens is, as we recognize and are able to label the sensations accurately, the behaviors change because the sensations are no longer as threatening. So you less of an amygdala response or reaction, which means your frontal cortex stays engaged better and you are able to make conscious choices better. So I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. Thanks so much. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to take all of the information today and apply it to your lives. We're also going to talk here in we're in session 3 right now. So either next week or the week after that, we're going to how our body will just feel these things automatically all by themselves versus when we have a thought or a behavior followed by that thought and we think ourselves into these emotional states. So that's called bottom up and top down. And we're going to be talking about that here in the next couple of weeks. Thanks so much for joining us today. And again, remember, if you're listening to this by podcast only, the name of our podcast channel is changing to Daisy Girl Communications as kind of the umbrella host for all of the shows that we're doing. If you'd like to support our program and you can do so by sending us a couple of bucks through Venmo at Easy Girl Communications. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye.